Hello everyone and welcome into Coach Craig's Sports. This is the CFL DFS video for week number 2. If you're joining me for the very first time, first of all, welcome in. Second of all, this is how this week's video will be structured. We'll be going through my CFL DFS sheet for week number 2, talking about all the relevant players, whether or not I would consider them a GPP option, a cash game option, a GPP paydown option, or kind of like a dart throw, and then kind of whether or not I'll be overweight or underweight to the field on each individual player. And then as the week goes along, I'll be listing all the depth charts down in the comment section of this video, as well as any other major news. Everything else will be updated on the sheet and can be found over on my Patreon page. Very small monthly donation over there, where you do get access to my CFL DFS sheets throughout the month, as well as some daily MLB DFS notes if that's something you're into at the same time as well. But without further ado, we'll get right into it. We're going to start off with the BC Lions. We got Nathan Rourke at quarterback. Had a really strong week number 1. $10,200 is his price tag for week 2. GPP option there. Probably going to ultimately be in line with the field on him. Do expect him to draw a lot of ownership in week number 2. And then at running back, there's James Butler, $8,500 GPP option. Will be slightly overweight to the field on him. Was kind of surprised that the field was not stronger on him last week in week number 1. Had a pretty solid week, had all the carries from that running back position for them, so definitely do like his upside once again. And then kind of behind him in terms of practice squad news, they did cut Deshaun Fenwick, and then they brought Jordan Terrell back in, and he's going to be on the practice squad, so nothing that's going to affect week number 2 just in general. In terms of the wide receivers, we saw, Stanley Berryhill, Javon Catoy, and Justin McInnis had the biggest impact in week number 1. I have them all listed as GPP options in line with the field for week number 2. Same thing with Keon Hatcher at $5,300. And then Aiden Eberhardt is still like at $8,100. Didn't do anything in week 1, so we'll be underrated to the field on him. And we did see that big week 1 out of Stanley Berryhill, so I did put the question mark behind him because I think maybe the field will get a little bit overweight to him. So maybe you want to be slightly underweight to the field on him, but definitely do like him, Javon Catoy, Keon Hatcher, and Justin McInnis for this week overall. If you want to take a chance on Jermaine Jackson at $2,500, operating as the returner and maybe a little bit on offense, you can definitely do that at the same time as well. Then we're going to move down to that BC Lions defense. Their $3,900 GPP option will be overweight to the field on them. Zach Collaros will not be playing on the opposite end of this game for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. So it will be Chris Stuyvesant at quarterback, who is a little bit more turnover prone just in general. They're probably going to be a little bit more focused on running the ball. If they can stop the run, should be a really good matchup for them overall and a really respectable price tag. Then we're going to move down to the opposite end of that game with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. So Zach Collaros is not going to be playing at quarterback at $9,500. He is suspended for this week. Chris Stuyvesant will get the start. He's $9,000. GPP option, probably in line with the field if you really want to get there. I'm probably going to be slightly underweight to the field just because I don't think I'm getting there too much just in general. If his price tag was a little bit cheaper, then obviously the rushing upside definitely is there. So it could ultimately end up paying off, but I do like some of the other quarterbacks just a little bit better this week overall. And then at running back, we got Brady Oliveira, $10,000. GPP option, probably in line with the field on him. I would expect him to draw a lot of ownership, especially with Zach Collaros out this week, but definitely think he is worth it at this point in time. Behind him, Peyton Logan's on the IL, so he won't be playing this week. And then Matthew Peterson, the rookie's $5,000. So if you really want to take a chance on him, you could. But at $5,000, not really a chance that I'm willing to take in week number 2, the first game of the season for this Winnipeg Blue Bombers team. Moving down the wide receivers, Kevin Clericus at $6,300, underweight to the field on him. Won't be getting any shares myself personally. Nick Dominski at $7,500. I have him as a GPP option, but probably slightly underweight to the field just with Chris Stuyvesant at quarterback. But, maybe everybody else is feeling the same way, so he could be an interesting leverage play at the same point in time. Dylan Mitchell at $6,800, brand new team, not really trying to get there at this point in time, so we'll be underweight to the field on him. Dalton Shane at wide receiver, $3,000, still listed as a starter, pay down option. Probably going to be overweight to the field on him. He is coming back from injury that cost most of last season for him, so if it takes him a couple weeks to get ramped up, wouldn't be surprised by that, but definitely want to take some shots for week number 2 just in general. And then we have Jerry Stearns at $7,300. I do like him quite a bit as a player, but in this matchup, with Chris Stuyvesant at quarterback, $7,300, a little bit too expensive for him. We'll be underweight to the field on him. Not getting any shares just in general. And then Joey Corcoran as well, $5,800, underweight to the field on him. Kedrick Wheatfall is maybe like the other guy I'd be interested in, coming off that strong preseason, shown flashes last year, $6,100, but once again with Chris Stuyvesant at quarterback, GPP option, slightly underweight to the field on him just in general. And then Cody Case is listed on DraftKings, but he is on the practice squad, so do not play him. And then for that Blue Bombers defense, $4,100 going against the BC Lions. I don't think it's a very good matchup overall. And that Blue Bombers defense did show some pretty big holes last season at times, so underweight to the field on them. Will not be getting to them for week number 2 just in general. Then we move down to the Montreal Alouettes. Not the greatest week 1 for Davis Alexander, so I wouldn't be surprised if he gets benched for McLeod Bethel Thompson at some point. Not really interested in either one for week number 2. I like other quarterbacks better just in general. We should see Stevie Scott back this week at $2,500. Potential paydown option, probably in line with the field on him. Was able to practice in full all week due to that knee injury. We'll see what that depth chart looks like. It was a decent week 1 for Sean Thomas Erlington, so if you want to get to him, definitely can do that as well at $4,800. But once again, in line with the field on both them. The upside might be a little bit capped there, but if you can get a touchdown out of either one, could be a very good value play just in general. Moving down to their wide receivers, looking at Austin Mack once again at $5,200. GPP option, probably going to be overweight to the field on him once again. Tyson Philpott was a cash game option for me in week 1, $7,900. You could definitely play him in cash once again in week 2, but strong GPP option will be overweight to the field on him once again. Charleston Rambo's at $8,600. Will be underweight to the field on him. Just not really getting there, not loving that price tag. And then Tyler Snead, $4,200. Did look all right in week 1. It was kind of interesting to see what this wide receiver room will look like with all these guys there. But he's still a very viable option and a paydown option, maybe slightly overweight to the field on him. Cole Speaker was a little bit banged up the last day of practice, but is available. So wouldn't expect that to impact him, but was not too involved in week number 1. And then we move down to that Alouettes defense, $4,500. We'll be slightly overweight to the field on them. They're going against the Ottawa Redblacks. Drew Brown's out at quarterback, so it should be a little bit of a favorable spot for that Alouettes defense just in general. Then we move down to that Redblacks team. Like I just mentioned, Drew Brown is out at quarterback due to a hip injury. So Matthew Schultz will get the start. He's kind of a paydown option at $7,400. If you want to get there, definitely does make some sense. Does have some decent upside, but if he kind of struggles, they could also turn to Dustin Crum at the same point in time. So probably going to be in line with the field on him. Maybe ever so slightly overweight to the field in some of the lineups that I'm not playing the Alouettes defense. William Stanback, your running back, $7,500. He got all the running back carries in week number 1. So GPP option there, probably slightly underweight to the field on him. Maybe in line with the field now that Drew Brown is out at quarterback, but not a guy that I'm really clamoring to get to. But if he ends up in my lineups, I'm not going to hate it whatsoever. I will say here down at wide receiver too, if you want to get to Devonta Dedmon as kind of a kick returner, $2,900 dart throw, you can do that as well. But in terms of the actual wide receivers, we got Braylon Addison, strong week 1, $5,500. GPP option, probably in line with the field on him. I have the question mark behind it just because I think there's the chance for people to be a little bit point chasing in week number 2, coming off that strong week 1. Justin Hardy at $8,500. GPP option will be overweight to the field on him once again. If you want to roll him out in a cash game setting, you could definitely do that as well. Liked him a little bit more with Drew Brown, but Matthew Schultz is a very experienced backup quarterback, so would not expect too much of a dropout there just in general. And then Eugene Lewis, $9,400. He's got the touchdown streak going on, GPP option, but will be underweight to the field on him. I think people are going to be pretty high on him once again. And if you want to take a buy low shot on Khalil Pimbleton, definitely don't have a problem with that. $6,000 GPP option. That's kind of why I have the question mark behind in line with the field on him, just because I might be slightly overweight just based on the poor week number 1. Keelan White was a little bit involved in week 1, so if you want to take a shot on him as a dart throw, you could definitely do that as well. Nick Marner is on that 6-game injury list, and then they did sign Luther Haka Navaru, probably mispronouncing his name once again, to the practice squad, as well as Joe Nagata. So they are bulking up that wide receiver depth, especially on that practice squad. And they had quite a few guys there already, so we'll be kind of interested to see what their plans are for that moving forward. Then we move down to Redblacks defense. $3,500 paydown option, slightly overweight to the field on them. If they get some pressure on whoever plays quarterback for the Alouettes, could be a very good week for them overall. Then we move down to the Calgary Stampeders. Not the greatest week 1 for Vernon Adams Jr., so if you want to play him at $9,900 GPP option, probably going to be in line with the field on him. I think based on his name alone, he'll probably get a decent amount of ownership still. It wasn't the greatest week 1. Obviously, Dedrick Mills did have the 3 touchdowns, so that kind of hurt him. He had the 2 interceptions, but we would expect a pretty decent bounce-back game from him, so could be an interesting buy low spot just in general. Then we have Dedrick Mills at running back, $8,000. GPP option, I have him in line with the field. Typically, he's a guy that I get a little bit overweight to just in general. But coming off that 3-touchdown game, I think there's the opportunity for people to be a little bit point chasey this week. So maybe a little bit of caution with Dedrick Mills just in general. And then one other note in that running back room is that Ludwig Chakwit, Probably mispronouncing his name, probably butchered it quite a bit, but he was moved to the practice squad this week just in general. In terms of that wide receiver room, we got Clark Barnes, $8,800. GPP option if you really want to get there. Was pretty involved in week one, but still will be slightly underweight to the field on him just based on that price tag. Reggie Begelton looked all right week one, $8,200. GPP option. Once again, like I said, week one, better quarterback play should help him out just a little bit in general. So definitely do like the buy low spot on him once again. Tevin Jones, $7,200. Looked pretty decent in week one, so GPP option, probably slightly underweight to the field on him just based on what he did week one. If you want to take a shot on Jalen Philpott or Dominique Grimes, relatively cheap price tags, you can definitely do that as kind of pay down options or dart throws at the same time as well. Malik Henry remains on that 6-game injury list. Tommy Wilson was added to DraftKings, but he's on the practice squad, so do not play him. Then we move down to the Stampeders defense. They're $3,600. Pay down option, slightly overweight to the field on them as they are going against the Toronto Argonauts with either Chad Kelly that is banged up in terms of his leg or Nick Arbuckle at quarterback. So I think there's a lot of opportunities to be had there just in general. Then we move down to that Toronto Argonauts team. Not really sure what that quarterback situation is going to look like. Chad Kelly was limited practice on Tuesday and Wednesday. We'll see whether or not he's back this week or not. Do probably expect that we're getting Nick Arbuckle once again. Not really interested in either quarterback this week overall. Their running back room pretty much didn't do anything last week, and they're more expensive this week. So I'm not really interested in McMahon or Williams once again. So if you really want to take a dart throw on one of them, you can definitely do it. But it's not something that I am personally doing myself. In terms of the wide receiver room, we're looking at DeMonte Coxey once again, $9,500 GPP option. Underweight to the field on him once again, though. If Chad Kelly does start at quarterback, he looks better. If it's Nick Arbuckle, once again, it's not quite as good. And then we have DeVaris Daniels, $6,200. Probably my preferred option in this wide receiver room. In line with the field on him, he did have that touchdown week one to make his stats look decent. Janorian Grant, $5,100, was able to practice in a limited capacity on Tuesday and Wednesday due to that ankle injury. And they did move Calvin Turner back to the practice squad, so I would assume that he's back this weekend, returning to his kick return duties just in general. And then the last wide receiver I have some interest in, David Unger III, $5,400. GPP option, probably slightly underweight to the field on him. If it is Nick Arbuckle at quarterback, slightly underweight to the field. If it's Chad Kelly at quarterback, probably in line with the field on him overall this week. There is some upside to be had there, but I do wish that his price tag was a little bit cheaper just in general. Then we move down to the Toronto Argonauts defense, $4,400. They do have some upside, but will be underweight to the field, not getting to them this week overall, especially if Chad Kelly is not the starter at quarterback. Then we move down to the Rough Riders. Trevor Harris at quarterback, $9,800. GPP option, probably going to be in line with the field on him once again this week. I don't mind him whatsoever. Not too much of a stance to be had on him for week number 2 just in general. In terms of that running back position, we did see AJ Alouette exit the game early. He was limited in practice on Tuesday, but did practice in full due to a head injury. I do assume that that's probably some type of concussion or like neck injury, but sounds like he should be good to go for week number 2. So $6,500 GPP option, probably slightly overweight to the field on him, especially considering he did not do much week 1. So, the people that don't pay too close of attention, maybe they're a little bit lower on him this week just in general. Then behind him, we have Thomas Bertrand Hudden, who had that really good week 1, but was limited in practice on Tuesday, did not practice on Wednesday due to what I believe was a groin injury. For some reason, it edited over to head, so I do need to correct that in my sheet itself. And with that being said, with those two guys being banged up, they did sign Kadeem Carey to the team. He's not listed on DraftKings at this point in time. Was technically signed to the practice squad, but would not be surprised if he's elevated for week number 2 just in general. At fullback, Albert Achoe did not practice on Tuesday and Wednesday once again due to a hip injury, so would expect him out for week 2 as well. Then we move down to the wide receiver position. Samuel Emilus had that really strong week 1, $8,900 GPP option, probably slightly overweight to the field on him. Would not be surprised if he has another strong week, and this wide receiver room is a little bit banged up at this point in time. Keyshawn Johnson, $9,200. If you really want to get to him as a GPP option, you can definitely do that, but I will be underweight to the field on him once again. Dante Myers at $2,800, I think is a very interesting paydown option this week, so we'll be slightly overweight to the field on him, especially with all the injuries in this wide receiver room at this point in time. Tommy Neal did not practice on Tuesday and Wednesday once again due to his ankle injury, so would expect him to be out once again for week number 2. And then we move down to Keon Schaefer-Baker. He's $4,700, but did exit week 1 very early. did not practice on Tuesday or Wednesday due to a foot injury, so would expect him out once again. Sean Bain Jr. still working his way back from that knee injury, did not practice on Tuesday or Wednesday, should be out once again for week number 2. And then Deshaun Mims was promoted to the active roster as kind of another wide receiver since they need another body. Would not be surprised if they promote somebody else at the same point in time with all the injuries that they do have in this wide receiver room. So should make for a very interesting team this week overall. And then in terms of that Rough Riders defense, kind of a GPP option, slightly underweight to the field on them as they go against the Hamilton Tiger Cats. There is some opportunities there if they can get some pressure on Bo Levi Mitchell and create some turnovers, but at the $4,300 price tag, it's not something I'm personally willing to pay up for at this point in time. And then last but not least, we move down to that Tiger Cats team. We got Bo Levi Mitchell at quarterback. He is $9,700. GPP option. Probably going to be in line with the field on him. Maybe ever so slightly overweight to the field. Definitely do like his upside in this matchup just in general. They did sign Jake Delgado to their practice squad. Technically, he has a DraftKings price tag, but do not play him. Once again, he was signed this week. He's on the practice squad, and he's going to be like their third or fourth quarterback as the season moves along. Move down to running back Greg Bell, who was really popular week 1. I was not really expecting that, but he's a GPP option. Probably going to be in line with the field on him. Maybe ever so slightly underweight to the field just because of how popular he was in week number 1, but definitely do like him in this matchup overall. Moving down to that wide receiver room, it's pretty much the same guys as last week. So we have Shamar Bridges, $8,400, Kenny Lawler, $7,800, Keandre Smith, $6,700, and Tim White at $7,100. All viable GPP options, probably in line with the field on all of them, maybe ever so slightly overweight to the field on Keandre Smith since he had that down week number 1. And then Brendan O'Leary Orange was pretty active week 1, so $3,600 could be a viable paydown option if you really want to go there. And then Drew Olszewski is $3,200. Did not practice on Tuesday or Wednesday once again due to ankle injuries, so I would expect him to be out for week number 2. And lastly, Isaiah Wooden popped up on the injury report today, limited practice on Wednesday due to a hamstring injury. He operates as their kick returner, so if he's out, they're going to have to transition over to somebody else. And that could potentially be Tim White. It might also end up being Johnny Augustine, so those guys could have a little bit more value than they would be expected to have otherwise. In terms of that Tiger Cats defense, they're $3,700. If you really want to take a shot there, you can definitely do it. It's just not a team that I'm personally getting into myself this week overall. And then with that being said, the Elks are the lone team on the bye this week. But with that being said, that's a quick little rundown on my CFL DFS sheet for week number 2. As always, if you have any questions related to CFL DFS for week number 2, be sure to drop them down in the comment section below, and I'll get back to you as quickly as possible. Once again, I will be dropping all of the depth charts as they do come out down in the comment section of this video, as well as any major news. Everything else will be updated on this sheet over on my Patreon page, so definitely feel free to check that out if that's something you're into. Very small monthly donation over there. You get access to my CFL DFS sheets for the entire month, as well as my MLB DFS notes that I do put out pretty much on the daily, if that's something you're into as well. But with that being said, if you are brand new to my channel, checking out for the very first time, or have yet to subscribe, please consider doing so. Definitely would appreciate it. Helps build the community that we're trying to build here at Coach Craig Sports, which is one that's truly for you, the viewers, helping you with your DFS. Right now, we have MLB DFS in terms of the core pick videos, typically Monday through Friday. Got my CFL DFS video, this video coming out once a week, and that comes out typically on Wednesdays. And then last but not least, if you're interested in sports betting, if you're interested in prop betting whatsoever, be sure to check out the links and promo codes down in the description below for BetUS, Parlay Play, and Prize Picks. If you're a brand new user to any one of those 3 sites, when you sign up, make your initial deposit, you will get a first match deposit bonus. For Prize Picks and Parlay Play, it's 100% match up to $100. And then for BetUS, it's 125% match up to $2,000. So some pretty great opportunities to be had out there. If you have any other additional questions related to that whatsoever, feel free to reach out to me, whether it's down in the comment section of this video or on Twitter at Coach Craig Sport. I'd be more than happy to help you with that journey as well. But with that being said, that's all that I truly have for this week's video. Definitely do appreciate each and every one of you tuning in. Definitely means a lot to me. I hope that each and every one of you have a great rest of your day and some pretty good luck in CFL DFS for week number 2.